Hello, everyone, and welcome to your third session of the week, I believe. It could be your fourth session of the week, depending on the order that you're watching these pre-recordings as part of Roar Pride Week. Again, my name is Laura Violet. I'm one of your administrators in the athletic department. And with me today is our faculty athletics representative, Dr. Conant. Hey, Dr. Conant.
Hello.
Guys, so I'm really excited for you to meet Dr. C today. Like I said, she's our faculty athletics rep, otherwise known as FAR for short. So Dr. C is actually a former coach at Regis. She coached soccer and women's lacrosse, women's soccer and women's lacrosse, teaching in our health and fitness studies major, and turned full-time faculty several years ago. She was an EDD candidate for Regis last summer. Congratulations, Dr. C.
Thank you.
On your degree. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. C. And please, if you could give us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to have this opportunity to be able to welcome you as the newest members of the Pride. Super exciting. And I just want to take this opportunity to be able to tell you a little bit more about my role as the faculty athletic representative, because as Laura Violet correctly said, I kind of have my foot in both parts of the school in the respect that I spent 5 years in the athletic department in a coaching role, and I've spent 5 years in academics as a full-time faculty member. And so the thing that I think is beneficial about that, first of all, is that I'm a total jock and I love sports. But second is the fact that I speak both languages. And there are certain things that are particular to athletics and there are certain things that are particular to academics. And I understand how those things can interrelate. And I am able to speak to the different issues and things that come up that impact student athletes, coaches, but also faculty. And so I think that that's been really helpful. That I'm somebody who understands both sides. What Laura and I are hoping to do is just to give you a better sense of how you can utilize me and the other team mentors as resources.
Dr. C, the first thing I kind of wanted to ask, just to break the ice for us, is if you could share with everyone maybe your favorite thing about Regis.
So I have been at Regis since 2010, and something that has always been my favorite thing about Regis is the fact that I am able to have really great close relationships with the student athletes. When I was in my coaching role, obviously I knew them in that respect on the field, but now, what's really cool is that I'm able to attend their games, see my students in action, see them in these roles where they're competing and they're tough and they're taking leadership roles. So I see them on the field, I see them on the court, I see them in the pool. So proud of that. And then I'm also able to follow on Go Regis Pride. And then the next day in class, I can say, hey, I saw you. You did such a great job. You know, you fought so hard. The team did so well. And so that's been something that's been really neat about Regis, is that it's a big enough school that we have a number of teams and athletes, but it's small enough that I can still know all of them and get to have really close relationships with so many of them. So that's, to answer your question, is really my favorite thing about Regis, and has been all along, is the close relationships that I've been able to develop with the student athletes.
Definitely. And not only are we so lucky to have you as a super fan at all of our student athletes games and competitions, we do see you there a lot. But in your own words, can you be specific and describe, maybe, like I said, in your own words, to our new students, what the role specifically of the FAR is? Yes, super fan, but also you mentioned that classroom aspect of things. What is the role of the FAR on a campus?
So the FAR is actually an NCAA mandated role. So every single school has one. Who's a part of the NCAA has a FAR. And I'm lucky enough that I was appointed in this role over 2 years ago at this point. And so really what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to be this liaison. I'm supposed to be the bridge between athletics and academics. And so I feel as though I am able to provide the athletic department with the perspective of the faculty, and I think that I'm able to provide the faculty with the perspective of what's going on in athletics. And this has been really helpful because on a college campus, having the ability to be able to communicate if everybody's so busy can be tough. And so I'm the person who can be that conduit between all the different departments and all the different people. So that's my primary thing. But I'm also, I would like to say I'm also an advocate for the student athletes and for the athletic department. And so that if there's ever something that comes up, if there's an issue or concern between perhaps a faculty and a student athlete, that I can help to be able to mediate that, or to perhaps provide just some more information so that we can get a resolution.
I'm so glad you said the word advocate, because to go back to what you said also, every NCAA institution does have an FAR on campus, but the ways in which each institution utilizes this person varies. It's very different. And for you to say that you're an advocate, I truly believe you, knowing and having that coaching aspect, as well as being a former student athlete yourself, you do really, truly understand what that being an advocate means as a faculty member. And I think you know, working alongside you and having you on both sides with our faculty and our coaches and our student athletes has really elevated the student athlete experience at Regis. And a lot more people truly understand the schedule that our student athletes have, the busyness and the commitment and the time that it takes to be able to have that opportunity to be involved in intercollegiate athletics.
Yep.
So it's great. Thank you. Second question. Can you please expand on this idea of academic success and how students can play an active role in their own academic experience?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to speak to that. So when you become a college student, there is more freedom than perhaps you're used to when you were a high school student. But with that freedom comes responsibility. And the way that student athletes can be successful is by taking advantage of the fact that we are a school where your faculty will know you. And so your faculty will say, here is my email, here's my phone number, call me, reach out, come to my office hours or Zoom hours, whatever the case may be. So take advantage of that, because the student athletes, we're gonna be looking out and we're gonna see you wearing your soccer or your field hockey, basketball, Regis gear. And so we're gonna know generally who you are. But if you can reach out to us, introduce yourself, you know, first day of class, afterwards, just come over and say who you are. And so then we're able to put a face to a name, and that's going to enable you to be successful because the professor is going to know you. And so take advantage of that opportunity, first of all, that we're small enough that your faculty can get to know you. I think another thing in terms of success is really being mindful of time management. And like I said, there is more freedom that can come with being a college student, but you're going to be really busy also as a student athlete. And so you need to take advantage of the time that you have in your day. And so if your first class is at 11, that you should be waking up early enough so that you can get breakfast, because we know food is fuel, but then also using that time before 11 to get work done, because then if you have class from 11 until 3, and then you're going to have sports, and then you need to eat, you need to be taking advantage of your time. So that's another suggestion I would have for student success. And then finally, just recognizing that there are real things that you can do to indicate that you are interested. So There are student athletes on the women's basketball team who always sit in the front row in my classes. And I really appreciate that, because you can't hide in the front row. And so they're always an active part of my courses and my class discussions. But then also the students who are speaking up in class. So, or like I said, when we had the Zoom classes this spring, the ones who are prepared and ready to participate. That is something that faculty notice and faculty appreciate, is when students are ready, engaged, and want to be part of the process, and that helps you to be successful.
Thanks, Dr. C. To go back to the first thing you said about students being engaged and involved and actually approaching their faculty members and their professors if they're having difficulty in class, or making appointments with them to ask questions. I think that's the hardest thing sometimes for first year college students and new students coming into a new place to understand. I think sometimes students get cold feet about that. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, and kind of broke the ice for some of our new students who may be a little nervous about approaching faculty members and calling a faculty member Dr. Conant. Some of that can be really intimidating. So thank you for normalizing that for some students. And students who are watching, I think it's super, super important for you to understand how important it truly is to play an active role in your academic success. Just like Dr. C had said, your faculty members aren't really going to wait for you or they're not going to go to you when there's an issue or a concern. They're kind of going to wait for you to come forward and speak to them about a test that you may need corrections on, or extra study time, or how to study appropriately for a certain class. So those are just some things to think about. So I really appreciate you, Dr. C.
Can I add something also? That something that you and I have worked on is staying on top of the attendance reports. And so that is something that faculty will be involved in, is that faculty are required to take attendance before all classes. And so I will take attendance in my courses, and then I submit this onto something called Starfish. And so then that generates a report that Laura Violet is able to export, and then she's able to see, oh, okay, so this student has missed this class, or this student has been tardy 3 times to this class. And so this is something that when we're talking about the ways that that I work with the athletic department, is that we have this conversation on a weekly basis about any students that we are potentially worried about, and that we can immediately step in, and so that people aren't falling through the cracks. So in addition to ways that that's how we work together, I also think that that's a benefit of a place like Regis, is that we know you guys all so well, that we're able to say, oh, actually, I know that there was something going on with that student. Oh, we need to maybe, call a meeting, something like that. So I think that that's another thing that's great about Regis, is that people don't fall through the cracks.
Absolutely. And that kind of is a great segue to the next piece I'd like to talk about, this idea of attendance, right? The next layer of that is, yes, class attendance is mandatory, and yes, your faculty will know if you aren't in class. But when it comes to competitions or games, right, you have your sport, you may have class time during a practice or a game. So the next layer of this attendance piece is something we call the missed class form. So Dr. C, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what that missed class form is and why we require it. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So we understand that the student athlete experience, when you're in season, that you are going to have times where potentially you have an away game and you need to be dismissed. And so let's say you have first year seminar, it's Tuesday, Thursday, it's from 2 to 3:15, and your team is scheduled to depart by 2:30. Well, so what you would need to do is you'll be given this missed class form by your coach. Your coach will then instruct you to reach out to the faculty member, and this goes right along with the idea of going up to the faculty member and introducing yourself as, hello, I also am a student athlete, and here's my missed class form. and saying to the faculty member, here's this information, here's my schedule. It looks like there are 3 times this semester that my team is scheduled to depart at a time that conflicts with the class. And is it okay? Do I have your permission to miss the class? So you always ask, right? You don't just assume. And then the faculty member normally will say, well, sure, and they sign off, and then you take that form and you bring it back to your coach. All these things are expected to happen well in advance of the potential conflict. So we don't want student athletes showing up on the day of a conflict and saying, I gotta have this signed, I gotta leave in 5 minutes. We want, when we talked about the time management and taking responsibility, this is another one of those examples where you're given this opportunity to compete, so you need to be responsible to get the missed class form to your faculty members ahead of time. And you're also responsible for the work. So it's not like, oh, because I had a soccer game, now I don't have to make up that quiz.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, I missed a quiz, I'm gonna wait for my faculty member to follow up with me. So that's where that responsibility comes in, that you need to make sure that you're following up and making sure that you keep up with the work. Because what can happen is if a student athlete doesn't keep up with their work, and it looks like if they're taking advantage of this opportunity to compete, that a faculty member might say no. Later in the semester, that you have your 3rd competition that was potentially a conflict, and the faculty member might say, you haven't been pulling your weight, and so we're going to have to say that you need to miss the competition. So that's why we say, you know what, you got to make sure that, yes, you do the forms, but you also need to do the work so that the faculty are going to be wholeheartedly supporting you and giving you their approval. Does that answer the question?
100%. And so that our new students aren't intimidated by this missed class form, students, you will be directed on where you can find the form in a variety of locations. You'll have captains to kind of help you through and get your feet wet with how to properly use the form. Maybe you can do a mock conversation of how to have this conversation with your faculty member. So we will make sure you know where to access it and how to access it, and that you know where to find it as well. And you'll have an opportunity to meet Dr. C and ask any questions that she can answer for you about the form specifically as well. But for now, we just wanted to give you the heads up about some of those expectations going into missing class for a competition or a game. So we covered it. Thank you. I think one final question I'd like to ask you is if you have any pieces of advice or helpful tips for our new student athletes as they head into their first semester as college students.
Yes. So my advice, or maybe pep talk, is that you can do this. All right. I know that there are times where incoming student athletes will say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to manage being a nursing major and being a student athlete. And so they'll get really nervous even before it's happened, even before they've stepped foot on campus, they're nervous. And so what I would say is that you can do this, and that there are so many examples of successful student athletes who are already on campus, or who are our proud alums at this point, who were nursing majors and 1 or 2 sport athletes, and that they excelled in all of those things, or that they were doing their internship for business or communications, but they are also still able to make that work with being on the soccer team. And so my advice to you all is to trust in the fact that you guys have the skill set. You already were able to balance all of this leading up to coming to college. And so you will be able to do this, and you will be able to manage the workload of being a student with the time commitment of being an athlete, and that we have so many resources on campus to enable you to be successful in that kind of combined endeavor of being a student athlete, whether it's someone like me or someone like Laura Violet. certainly your coaches are going to be huge, or are huge advocates of yours. But we also have resources like the Learning Commons, where you can get tutoring or you can get assistance with time management. And so all of those things exist, and they have been utilized by student athletes before you. And those have been things that have enabled them to be able to be successful right off the bat, right when they come, that they are able to balance both being a student and an athlete.